Hello and welcome to Goddess Resurrection. My name is Britta and I am your host, and today's episode is on exclusive sexual energy and its definition. Now, just a little side note, I will refer to the sexual energy as schmexual energy, just because I don't want to get flagged, and you just don't know. So we are talking about schmexual energy and the importance of its exclusivity in all ways. In all ways, this includes vibing or flirting or wandering eye, all of it, because it all ties into the ego and deep old wounding and patriarchal patterning. Before we dive in, hello my gorgeous, how are you? Spring has sprung. I think we're all ready for the beach and summer dresses and pool parties and fun times, right? Yes, we are. Good. So let's go ahead and let's meet in the breath, because as always, the breath is your everything. And I'm holding up my hands because it's about eyes open, learning to use the conscious breath, the deep breath, the controlled breath, to stay so present, to be in your feminine energy, to open and stay opened in your sensory, right? It's your powers that can only be online when you are in your conscious breath. And it's not one specific breath practice. It is simply building the breath into the doing, adjusting the breath to the situation. Sometimes you might be able to have deeper and slower in and exhales, and then other times you might just have more shallow breaths, and it's okay. It's not about the specific part or ways of breathing. It's about you're the one that's in and you're the one that's exhaling. That's you being in your breath and in your feminine energy and present to yourself and present to life. Okay, good. Stay in the breath as we dive in. Now, schmexual energy. Schmexual energy is incredibly powerful. It is, besides money and power, schmexual energy, the top three for darkness to hook into and to control humans through. That's why there's so much dysfunction around schmexual energy. I don't know if you know this about me or not, but I'm a Viking shaman, so I clear entities, I clear possessions, I clear darkness off of people almost daily. Clients that have been with me for a longer amount of time, as they become lighter, they know that them choosing themselves as their light is the protection, right? Your light is your protection from anything that's dense or of a lower frequency, let's call it that. And they also know that there are certain ways in which we have to continue to protect ourselves, right? Because as soon as we're dropping into negative thinking, fearful thinking, worry thinking, we're opening ourselves up to other energies that can come in. As soon as we're dropping into the ego and we're focusing on money, and money becomes us, and money is all of a sudden our worth, and money and status and power all of a sudden becomes the identity. This is almost a guarantee for darkness hooking in and controlling people. And I do feel that so many people are under the influence of, entities, manipulating them. And when we're looking at the Epstein files, when we're looking at all of these ways in which men have used children, right? This is nothing new. This is nothing new. This has always been the case when we're looking at the other, right? That of lower frequency, of lower consciousness. It has always used the innocence, and abusing that innocence schmexually, which takes that life force out of the innocent being, whether it's an animal, whether it's a child. I don't want to dive into it too deeply here. It's not the place. But, it takes out the life force of that being, and it feeds the other. Okay? And so, not in such extreme ways, but in very similar ways, when we are reckless with our schmexual energy, that's how darkness gets in. That's how entities hook in. That's how the dysfunction and the addiction becomes stronger and bigger, and it almost takes on a consciousness all on its own. Right? So it's a real thing, and it's very important to address this, because I've had some of you, and one of you in particular, talking about a roadmap for goddess embodiment, to know where work still needs to be focused on, which area, right? And this is really important, and I'm actually writing a book on this, so I cannot give the full outline here, but every episode touches on one of these outlines. Every episode reaches into deeper layers for you to take note of, for you to pay attention to. Okay, where am I at in regard to this? Have I mastered this? Right? So this is all a part of the roadmap, and to control the schmexual energy, and to actually hold it as sacred for yourself and within your partnership, within your relationship, is huge. It's one of the top markers for the roadmap into your inner goddess embodiment, understanding that your schmexual energy is your life force, is a part of your divine light, is a part of your creativity, is a part of your joy. And when that gets abused, and any kind of lesser consciousness gets a hold of it, it'll suck the life out of you. It'll make human beings look gray and empty and hollow. Okay? That's how destructive the misuse of it can be. So I'm going to go into a suggestion, a practice, an awareness as to how actually live in life and be in the day-to-day and meet people in the appropriate way. That's the new earth paradigm way of living. It's a new earth way of lifestyle as to how to be in the appropriate consciousness with it. But before we get there, I want to just start at the beginning, where when we are little, when we are children, it's the second chakra. The second chakra is the creativity, right? It's the creative flow, it's the knowing, it's the intuition, it's the feminine energy, it's the womb, it's the beautiful seat of the goddess. And then as we hit puberty, this is when the second chakra now shares its space with the schmexual energy, right? It's the creative life force. It's creative life building, life creation force that really is schmexual energy. See, we've been trained to think that it's just fun, it's just schmeksh, right? And that again, that's patriarchal conditioning. It's not the truth. It's very sacred creation vibration that flows through it. And when used properly, we can really use it for such high important vision and mission completion. Now, because most of us were conditioned in the patriarchal ways, the schmexual energy has been misplaced, to say the least. I want to focus on how to be, because New Earth paradigm and sacred union and living in this higher consciousness embodiment is being in leadership, right? It's not falling back into the old ego ways of needing validation or filling a quick void or a quick fixed satisfaction, right? It's about living by example. That's what leadership is. It's about living authentically and living it by example. And so for you who are now in this awareness and in this practice of this journey of healing and growth and shifting into much higher levels of perception, schmexual energy is a fantastic energy to really learn to protect, to really learn to honor, to really learn to work with. Because remember, for you as the woman, for you as the goddess, it has everything to do with your self-worth, right? So inner goddess embodiment work is everything in regard to healing yourself out of the lack and into your self-worth, into your alignment with your divinity, right? Understanding that this body is a sacred temple, understanding that this body, this womb of yours is creation, vibration, your creation. You are the creator. And so you must be held sacred and you must be held protected. And only women that are in their masculine energy and still unhealed and in their ego really are the ones that misuse schmexual energy. And some of them even make it a sport to see if they can get your man, right? Especially if they feel challenged by your beauty or by your success, right? They will try to come after your man just out of that masculine competitiveness. And of course, men, having been conditioned in that belief, in that patriarchal identification that yes, that's what men do, and they womanize and they flirt and it's just part of what men do. It's really just that. It was so deeply conditioned into all of us, but it's all a lie, and it's all very low consciousness, and it's all very ego based. Because a divine masculine, a man, so for the woman, it's healing herself back into her full worth. For the man, it is healing himself out of his ego, out of his false identifications, right? Because a divine masculine knows the sacredness of the divine union. A divine masculine knows that I'm a soul and you're a soul and we're here together and we were contracted to be together, or maybe we're even the same soul, depends on the dynamic, But the divine masculine, healed and open-hearted, knows that he has to protect this energy, the space of the union. Both know this. It's easier for women. It's harder for men, not because of their biology. No, it's because of the deeply, deeply conditioned patriarchal ways. That, it's a bit harder for the man to really shift out of that ego identification, to really shift out of this trap that, many of them are still in, to feel an ego boost when a pretty woman comes on to them, right? Or comes at them vibing with chemistry or sexual energy, right? And a lot of men don't even know what to do with that. So they just indulge it and they give it back, right? And as this sexual energy gets exchanged, even just by flirting, even just by vibing each other, darkness gets in. Darkness gets in, make no mistake. And this is not something that can happen in the new paradigm, in the new earth paradigm. It'll have him drop out of his frequency almost immediately. So for a masculine, for a divine masculine, it is very important for him to go so deep in his healing that he does not define himself with his sexual identification any longer. Very important. He has to be so strong and so clear, knowing that he is not to indulge or reciprocate any sexual energy coming at him from anybody. To know that his divine feminine will know it, she'll feel it, she'll see it, and it'll cause disruptions in their energy flow together. That's how important it is. So coming back into the new earth paradigm and how to live in this lifestyle, how to live in the new earth paradigm, whether you're dating or whether you're single or whether you're in relationship, you need to think of yourself as sacred vessel, that you as the goddess, you only share with somebody who's worthy, right? He's got to be worthy. You are sacred land. And he's only worthy if he is a divine masculine, if his heart is open, he's healed enough, he's so conscious, he's so strong in himself that the ego does not get to control him any longer. And so now in this paradigm, the way to live in this life, because we're meeting people every day, we're making new connections every day, whether it's business, whether it's friends, whether it's acquaintances, whether it's neighbors, whether it's new people at the dog park, right? We are meeting people almost every day. And so it's not about not connecting with people. It's not about not seeing somebody who's handsome or not seeing somebody who's beautiful. No, it's not about that. It's about being in that higher level of consciousness where we know that's just a skin suit. We're all souls wearing these skin suits, and these higher levels know this. And so as we know this, we are now able to look at everybody and meet everybody from the heart up, right? So you now need to shift yourself into this awareness that when you connect with somebody, when you meet somebody, you only want to connect through the higher chakras, heart opening, a heart connection where so good to meet you, right? You feel the honesty, you feel the sincerity, you feel the connection, the warmth, or, maybe it's seeing the soul, recognizing the soul, knowing that, oh, wow, I feel like we know each other. I feel like we've met before. And so it all stays up here though. No more lower chakra connections. In the new earth paradigm, the lower chakras are reserved for schmexy time with each other, which can be super playful and fun and explorative and everything, right? It doesn't mean it's all of a sudden becoming boring. No, but its sacredness is protected. The union is protected, right? No more allowing anybody else to come in with this lower energy or sending it out from these lower chakras to anybody else. Right? Think of it. You as the goddess, right? You're in your worth, you're in your authority, you're in your flow, you're in your beauty, you're in your grace, you're in your self-love, you're in your self-worth. There is no need to be vibing anybody schmexually. Goddesses don't do that. Okay, they understand the potency and the power of that energy. A goddess only pairs herself with somebody who's worthy and who understands the sacredness of this energy. And so, as whether you're by yourself and you're just getting to know people, it'll like, let's say you're dating, right? Let's say you're single and you're dating, not leading with your schmexual energy and not letting anybody else lead with their schmexual energy and indulging that is gonna just weed out the riffraff, right? It's gonna just weed out the unconscious right away. And not leading with the schmexual energy, but leading with your light, leading with your authenticity will bring in the ones that are ready to meet that and match that. So it's probably the best way for anybody dating to begin with. But let's say you are in a relationship, and let's say you are in an existing relationship. Make sure you communicate this to your partner. Make sure you two talk about this, right? Because I still see it a lot. I still see it all the time where there aren't clear boundaries and lines are crossed for sheer lack of clarity. Right? And so make sure you practice this and make sure you also practice it with your partner to stay in this elevated vibration, to stay in this elevated consciousness, because especially remember to drop into that ego need for quick fix gratification, it'll immediately drop your frequency, right? And your partners as well. And if the man opens himself up to that lower level of schmexual energy exchange, it'll bring impurities into the union. It'll bring impurities into the consciousness of the two of you. And this is not going to hold you in your high frequency or new earth paradigm consciousness. So make sure you practice it. To only meet people, to only engage people from the heart up. It eliminates any and all confusion. It eliminates any and all misunderstandings. And it also, in the leadership that new earth divine unions are, it also shows and it teaches the better way, the new way, right? Because people are going to try to come at you with that schmexual energy, even if it's just out of ego to be competitive. But to not indulge that and to stay up here, immediately calls them into a higher level, immediately calls them into their light so much more, versus lowering yourself and indulging them in that way will lower you and confirm the ego in them, and it'll just reinforce this old dynamic, and it'll also make you subject to anything dark that could be swirling around or even attached to this person coming into you. That's how important this is. And I know that most of the population of the world is still caught up in that ego need. But more and more women are becoming aware of it. And I just want to give a quick example, a personal example. So I'm pretty new to San Diego, and I'm making new friends, and I'm meeting new people. And so a very new girlfriend of mine, who is wonderful, she brought me into the larger friendship group. And of course, me coming in as a single female, and most of them are couples, it is important for me to hold very clear boundaries, right? To only be hard up and, to speak to everybody, sure, but to really not give anybody any false vibes, right? But it was very interesting. So one of her friends, at some point, I could hear, feel, sense it, right? She was asking her husband, did she vibe you? Meaning, did I vibe him, right? And he said, no, not at all, not at all. And then she turned to me and she's like, Britta, thank you. Thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. You're welcome. So it is an issue that women are much more hip to than men, but it is an issue that is growing in awareness. It is an issue that is growing in momentum, right? Men are aware of it just as much as women are. And I thought it was just so indicative of the level of consciousness, right? That, yeah, these things matter. These things matter. Nobody is going to want to have a woman a part of the group or come into the group new that can't control her schmexual energy, that is still sucked into ego illusion, right? And I really appreciated that moment with this couple, and her asking him if I vibed him. I thought it was really amazing and really fantastic. And it really was a part of the inspiration for today's podcast, right? Because it's everywhere, it's awakening, it's flourishing, and we get to be the ones to live it and to be it and to show others how it's done, because this is not something we can tell somebody to do. This is only something that can be taught by living it, by being the example, by understanding self as sacred and holding that, and seeing everybody else as sacred, as another soul in a body, and maintaining that level of sacredness and elevated consciousness, which will only trigger more light in all that we come across. So let me know how it goes as you're practicing it, as you're sharing this with your partner. If your partner has a problem with it, you need to definitely, time's up, so I can't really dive into it much further. But if your partner has an issue with it, then you're, with somebody who's still very unhealed and in their ego. And this is something that you, at this point, should not tolerate, right? It's really a time for you to draw boundaries and set consequences, right? There are consequences for not honoring the sacredness that you deserve. Good. Now, quick announcement. Next week, I'm going to have my very, very, very dear friend and sister goddess, Erica Hollowile. She will be joining us for a conversation on the feminine energy and her journey, and also how it brought her into learning much more about the nervous system. And so she's studied beautiful techniques as to, how to regulate your nervous system, and she'll share some of those with us as well. So I'm looking forward to next week, as I will be sharing my wonderful friend Erica, who is really truly one of the smartest women I know, and she walks her talk. Right? She is mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, spiritually aligned and conscious. Very exciting. And as always, again, drop in the comments. Let me know how this how this practice is going for you, and how it is shifting the dynamic of your relationship. Because let's be honest, if we cannot feel safe within the dynamic, we can never truly relax into the relationship fully. We can never truly drop into the fullness of the soul exchange. If we cannot feel fully respected and honored in partnership. So I encourage you to practice it, share it, let me know how it's going. And as always, I am sending love and light blessings to you and yours. Hugs and kisses. Ciao for now.